Why do women come back after rejecting you? The answer isn't what you've been told by society, your friends, or the countless dating gurus whispering half-truths in your ear. It's not because she suddenly realized you were the one, or because she missed your warmth in the quiet hours of the night. No, the truth is deeper and far less romantic. She never truly wanted to let you go. What she wanted was control. But when you didn't chase, when you didn't fall apart, something in her shifted. She didn't expect your silence to be that loud. She didn't expect your absence to carry that kind of weight. And she certainly didn't expect to witness your rise from a distance. You see, women often return not out of love, but out of discomfort. The discomfort of watching a man become whole without them. They're drawn to the man who no longer needs to explain himself, who no longer hopes for her validation, who builds, rises and detaches, not with anger, but with peace. This world will tell you to be nicer, to wait, to prove your worth. But at Stoic Station we believe something else, that your worth is proven not by how much you hold on, but by how powerfully you let go. If you're ready for truth rooted in psychology, stillness and strength, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to Stoic Station for more insights that cut through the noise and speak to the soul of the modern man. Now stay with me until the end, because I'm about to reveal not just why she comes back, but how to make sure, this time, it's on your terms. Let's begin. 1. True indifference is magnetic. Indifference isn't a performance. It's not silence designed to bait a reaction or coldness wrapped in ego. True indifference is born from inner stability, the kind that says with unwavering calm, "I'll be okay either way." It's not that you don't feel. It's that you no longer allow your emotions to control your movements. You don't act out of lack, longing or fear. You act from strength, from a grounded place where her presence is welcome but never required. And that's rare, because most men, when faced with rejection or distance, collapse into panic. They search for reasons, they over-explain, they send one last text hoping to reopen a door that's already closed. They chase, not because they're in love, but because they haven't yet learned how to stand alone. But not you. You return to your routines, not as a distraction, but as a declaration. You started waking up earlier, not to get back at her, but to get back to yourself. You took that gym membership seriously, not to change her mind, but to change your relationship with discipline. You stopped watching her stories, not to ignore her, but because your story deserved more attention. That's what true indifference looks like. It's not passive, it's powerful. It's not cold, it's clear. And that clarity is what begins to shift the energy. Because suddenly she feels the difference, she feels the silence, but it's not the kind that begs for a reply. It's the kind that leaves her wondering, what changed in him? Why does this feel unfamiliar? The answer is simple. You stopped needing her. And that's when attraction takes on a new form. Because a man who doesn't need a woman is a man who becomes mysteriously compelling, not because he plays games, but because he's finally mastered himself. Ironically, it's when you stop hoping for the text, the call, the reconciliation, that's when the pull begins. Because she no longer feels your emotional grip. And in that release, in that quiet detachment, you become unforgettable. Indifference isn't the absence of care, it's the presence of peace. And peace is magnetic to those who live in chaos. 2. Self-worth. That doesn't waver. At this stage of your life, your worth must be rooted in something far deeper than attention or approval. It can't bend with her moods or collapse when she pulls away. Your value isn't a question she gets to answer. It's a truth you've already accepted. Too many men still tie their identity to how a woman sees them. When she's warm, they feel worthy. When she withdraws, they spiral. And that's the problem. They confuse affection with affirmation. They've never built a sense of value that exists outside of her presence. But you're not that man anymore. You've learned that confidence built on compliments is fragile. So you've chosen something stronger. You've made a quiet commitment to your health, your business, your craft, your peace. Not to impress her, but to honor yourself. You're no longer performing for validation. You're building for purpose. And here's what happens when you live that way. She notices. Not because you're louder, but because you've grown quieter, more certain. The energy you once directed toward proving your worth is now invested in becoming a man who knows it. That shift is powerful. She may not understand it right away, but she'll feel it. The old you might have begged for another chance, tried to explain, tried to fix. But the new you doesn't chase what doubts your value. You walk away, not bitter, but whole. And that's the version she won't forget. Not the one who needed her to feel enough, but the one who became enough on his own. 3. The perception shift hits hard. Women remember the version of you they walked away from. They hold on to that snapshot, the man who was uncertain, perhaps too available, maybe even lost in trying to please. But what happens when that image no longer matches reality? That's when everything begins to shift. Maybe when she left, you were scattered, you hesitated, you lacked direction, and in her mind, she made peace with that version of you. But time has a way of revealing what words never could. You didn't evolve to prove anything. You evolved because life demanded it, and you answered. You started showing up for yourself in ways she never saw coming. Now, you move with clarity. You don't explain yourself. Your choices speak volumes. You no longer react. You respond with presence, with purpose. That subtle strength is impossible to ignore. Suddenly, the man she thought she knew doesn't exist anymore, and the man standing in his place? He's unfamiliar, composed, focused, unbothered. And that mystery, the gap between who you were and who you are now, draws her in more than charm or effort ever could. It's not that you've become someone else, it's that you finally became the man you were always meant to be. And that realization doesn't just challenge her perception, it makes her question whether walking away was ever the right choice at all. 4. Emotional strength in a chaotic world. In today's dating landscape, chaos is the norm. One day it's warmth, the next day it's silence. Words don't always match actions, and emotional games are often disguised as connection. But in the midst of all that noise, there's one thing that stands out above all: a man who doesn't flinch. While others react with anxiety, anger, or confusion, you remain still. Not because you don't care, but because you've learned the difference between reacting and responding. You've trained yourself not to be ruled by every emotional wave, especially the ones meant to test your depth. She might pull back without reason, toss out subtle jabs, or act unpredictably just to see what you'll do. But you no longer take the bait. You've come to understand that not every behavior deserves your energy, and not every emotion needs a stage. That's not apathy, it's discipline. This is what Stoicism looks like in real life. It isn't about shutting down, it's about being grounded. And when you respond from that place of calm self-possession, she begins to notice something different. She can't shake you, she can't throw you off balance. And that changes the dynamic entirely, because the moment she realizes your peace isn't something she can disturb, she starts to wonder if she ever really understood your strength to begin with. And that quiet power, it's unforgettable. 5. Your life looks better without her. It was never about trying to make her jealous. That was never the goal. What happened instead was far more powerful. You began to remember the man you were before she entered your life. And more importantly, You discovered the man you were always meant to become. You started showing up for yourself. You pursued the trips you postponed, the hobbies you buried, the friendships you'd let fade. You reconnected with your mission, not as a distraction from the pain, but as a return to truth. Slowly, without announcement, you built a life that felt like your own again. And in doing so, you became the version of yourself she always imagined, but never truly believed you would become. The irony is, now that you've grown into that man, you're no longer performing for her attention. You don't wake up wondering if she's watching. You're too busy living a life worth watching. She sees the difference, even from a distance, the glow on your face, the ease in your laugh, the presence in your silence, and she starts to wonder, who brought that smile back? What sparked this growth? But the answer was never someone else. It was you. And in that realization, she sees it clearly. You didn't just survive without her. You evolved. And now, the story of your life is finally being written in your own voice, and she's no longer the author. 6. Your silence speaks loudest. In an age where constant noise is the norm, where messages flood in, stories are updated by the hour, and everyone is reachable at all times, your silence becomes deafening. It's not just an absence of words, it's an energy shift. It's the quiet withdrawal of your presence, your attention, your emotional availability. When you stop reacting, stop reaching out, stop subtly reminding her of your existence, something unexpected begins to happen. She notices. Not because you're doing anything in particular, but precisely because you're no longer doing what she took for granted. You're no longer available at her convenience. You're no longer showing up in her notifications like clockwork. And that sudden stillness, it speaks louder than any text ever could. Silence creates space, and in that space, questions are born. She begins to wonder, not out of ego, but out of unfamiliar discomfort. Why isn't he checking in? Did he forget me? Has he moved on? Has someone else taken the place she assumed was always hers? The truth is, she had an illusion of control. She believed, perhaps unconsciously, that you'd always be there, that no matter how distant she became, you would orbit her world like a constant. But silence breaks that illusion. It reminds her that you are not static, that your world doesn't pause when she steps out. It keeps turning without her. And that realization doesn't just create curiosity, it creates unease. Because once she senses that your silence is not a game, but a genuine shift in energy, she begins to feel the loss. Not just of your words, but of your presence, your consistency, your care. That's when silence stops being quiet. It becomes unforgettable. 7. Your ego no longer drives you. By the time you've reached 35, life has taught you this humbling truth. It's not her rejection that wounds you. It's your ego's reaction to it. The pain doesn't come from her choice to walk away, but from the voice inside you that says you must win her back, prove your worth, show her what she lost. That voice is pride, and pride, left unchecked, will drag you into battles that were never worth fighting. The younger version of you may have listened. He might have scrambled to post the right photos, craft the perfect message, or make her regret her decision through displays of success and confidence laced with bitterness. But you've grown past that now. You've seen what happens when a man lets his ego take the wheel. It clouds judgment, invites drama, and leaves him emptier than before. Now, you understand that real power lies in emotional mastery. That when your pride whispers, "Make her miss you," you answer with quiet resolve. I don't need to. You don't chase closure. You don't seek revenge disguised as self-improvement. You simply walk away, with clarity, with grace, and without noise. And that's what unsettles her. She expected conflict. She braced for outbursts, for desperate attempts, for some final plea to be seen again. but instead you gave her dignity. You didn't make her the villain. You didn't perform. You just stepped back into your life like a man who knows who he is, with or without her presence. That moment, your composed, respectful exit, stays with her far longer than any words ever could. It plays over in her mind, not because it was loud, but because it was so profoundly silent. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. And that wisdom comes only when your ego no longer needs to be right. It just needs to be free. 8. You mastered what you can control. There comes a moment in every man's journey when he grows tired, not of her silence, but of his own suffering. He realizes the weight he's carrying isn't her rejection, but his resistance to what is. That's the moment everything changes. You no longer spend your days trying to rewrite her story or reshape her decision. You stop refreshing your inbox, stop replaying conversations, stop hoping for a message that may never arrive. Not because you've stopped caring entirely, but because you've finally chosen to care about something greater, yourself. Instead of chasing answers from her, you begin creating certainty within you. You start waking up with purpose, not panic. You show up for yourself, not as a performance, but as a promise. You pour your energy into things that respond to effort, your body, your business, your mind, your mission. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom, learning to release the illusion of control over others and master what is undeniably yours, your thoughts, your actions, your standards. You may still think of her from time to time, but you no longer let those thoughts decide your direction. She might come back, or she might not. But that's no longer the measure of your peace. Because once you take your power back, once your stability no longer hinges on someone else's presence or apology, you've already won. A man who controls himself doesn't need guarantees. He creates momentum. He holds the line. And whether love returns or vanishes, he remains steady. Because mastery isn't about changing outcomes, it's about rising above them. That's where your strength lives now, and that's why, no matter what happens next, you never truly lose. 9. You let your actions do the talking. She may remember the words you once said, the promises, the apologies, the plans, but in the end, words are easy to dismiss. What stays with her, what lingers long after the messages stop, is what you did. You didn't announce your evolution. You became it. You didn't declare your healing. You quietly committed to it. There were no grand statements, no long emotional outbursts, no need to explain what she walked away from, because instead of reaching for closure, you reached for discipline. Instead of performing strength, you built it. That shift speaks volumes. She starts to hear about you through other people, how you're thriving, how you've been focused, how your name comes up in conversations where your presence was never expected. She sees your life unfolding online, smiling faces, new cities, goals achieved, and none of it revolves around her, not out of spite, but out of evolution. There's no bitterness in your silence, no hidden message in your distance, just the undeniable clarity of a man who is moving forward. And that movement creates something she didn't expect, distance she can't close even if she tried. She doesn't know where you're going now, but she feels that it's somewhere she no longer belongs. And that realization carries more weight than any apology ever could. Because when a man lets his life speak for him, when his progress becomes louder than his pain, he becomes unforgettable. Not through noise, but through motion. You've become that man. Not because you set out to prove her wrong, but because you finally decided to live for something real, something higher, something lasting. 10. You chose the long game. She may have been seeking attention, validation, or a brief emotional spark, but you were seeking something else entirely, something deeper. You weren't playing to win her back. You were playing to become someone you could finally respect in the mirror. That's the long game. While most men rush to fill the space with distractions, rebound flings, dramatic posts, constant noise, you chose the stillness. You chose to sit with the discomfort, to confront the truth, to rebuild from the inside out. Rejection didn't break you. It revealed where you had been betraying yourself. You began investing in the life you postponed. You picked up the pieces not to impress her, but to honor what had been waiting inside you all along. You stopped reaching out for answers and started creating your own clarity. That's not weakness, that's wisdom earned through fire. And something powerful happened when you did. She began to notice, not just you, but the absence of the man you used to be. The one who once sought her approval, who once waited for breadcrumbs of connection. That version no longer exists. In his place stands a man who doesn't seek validation, because he no longer doubts his value. You don't want her back because you're lonely. You don't chase her return to feel complete. You've grown into a man who knows how to stand alone and stand tall. And that kind of man doesn't ask to be chosen. He chooses himself again and again. And when a man plays for the long game, he doesn't just win her attention, he earns her respect, even if it comes too late. And that, my friends, is what makes you truly irresistible. Throughout this journey, we've uncovered the real reasons women return after walking away. It's not the begging, not the waiting, not the desperate attempts to be seen. It's the quiet power of becoming. You became calm in chaos. You found stillness where others broke. You didn't let the pain write your story. You let it refine your strength. You chose discipline over reaction, purpose over pity. You didn't move to prove a point. You moved because your life demanded more, and you rose to meet it. She felt that shift, not because you needed her to see it, but because you no longer needed her at all. That's when they come back, when they feel what you've become, and realize they no longer have access to it. But by then, you've already changed. And now, the question isn't why she returned. It's whether the man you've become, the one who built peace without her, has any desire to look back. Because the truth is, once you've chosen yourself fully, you don't chase, you don't wait, you decide. And that decision is yours now, always. If today's message resonated with you, if it reminded you of your strength, your worth, and the quiet power that comes from choosing yourself, then take a moment to support what we're building here. Subscribe to Stoic Station, where we speak directly to the real, often unspoken experiences of men navigating love, loss, and personal evolution in a world that rarely gives them space to feel or grow. And if you believe in the value of honest, grounded, and emotionally intelligent conversations like this, consider joining our channel as a member. Your support helps us continue creating content that doesn't sugarcoat, doesn't chase trends, but simply tells the truth. Every bit of it makes a difference. Every share, every like, every step you take toward building a stronger version of yourself adds fuel to this mission. Thank you for walking this path with us. You're not alone, and the journey forward is only just beginning.